Hey everybody, Julie B here, going live on several social channels today. So if you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter, welcome, welcome. Today I'm going to talk about how everything is better with a framework. But I'm going to tell you a little story first. So a couple of nights ago, I was getting ready to go out, and it's been cold here in Charlotte, and I was putting on my winter coat for the first time this year, and I reached into my pocket and I found this affirmation card. It says, I can manifest anything with my Julie B magic. So it's a little inside joke with my wife and I about my Julie B magic, but this has probably been in that pocket for at least 2 years. I haven't seen this in probably 2 years. And my life has changed so much in the past 2 years. And it's all because of a framework I use. But this card in my pocket really made me want to do this live today and share with you how a framework that I call the Fuel framework has really changed a lot for me. And the Fuel framework is, and I'm going to show a slide to you here in a minute, but it's formulate, upgrade, expedite, and launch. It's 4 steps. And these days, I put pretty much every new idea I have or anything, any initiative I want to do into this framework to help me get it launched. Because as business owners, we do create magic. We create something from nothing. Even if you're selling a product that is known or a service that is known, it's really, we're all very, very much like magicians in that we create something that didn't exist before. But to create it is one thing, but to keep it going, to keep it moving forward, to keep it focused is another. And for a long time, I dealt with what Alex Hermosi and Tim Ferriss finally helped me name, which is a crisis of self following informed pessimism. So I'm going to share a slide with you because I think this is really what a lot of business owners go through, and it's basically this change transition curve. Let's see here, there we go. All right, here we go. So it is this slide right here. So you can see, and this is pretty much like when we go through changes, we usually start with uninformed optimism. We're really excited about something and we move forward with it. And then we kind of come over this curve right here into informed pessimism. We're not sure if it's going to work. It's harder than we thought. It's going to take more time than we thought. It's just rougher. Let's just say the waters are rougher. And then we kind of hit rock bottom, which is crisis of meaning. So we start to ask ourselves, is this what I'm meant to do? Is this what I'm supposed to do? We have all of these questions, which is normal, by the way, to question like what you're doing. And especially when you're going through change, to question if you're making the right change. And what a lot of us do is we actually come down to this crash and burn. So it didn't work. I don't know what happened, but it just wasn't for me. It wasn't the right timing. It wasn't the right product or service. It wasn't right. And if you come down to point 4 here, crash and burn, usually what happens, if I was going to redo this graph for business owners, what we do is we kind of loop all the way back around here to this shiny object, this new idea, this new thing that we want to do. And then we kind of go through that whole thing again, around and around we go. But if you can get through the crisis of meaning, and you may crash and burn some, but if you can then bounce back up to this informed optimism. So it's hard. It's going to take more time than you thought, maybe more money than you thought, maybe more resources. It might just take more. But you also are then still able to see the opportunity again. You're able to see the possibility, the reality that you are getting traction in some stuff. That is informed pessimism. And if you can get to here and just keep going, I think that's really the thing, is like you have to just keep going in some things. Now listen, some stuff is not right. Some stuff is never going to be right. And, I think the best advice I can give you for that is to like troubleshoot that, is to talk with as many people as you trust to help you through that idea and make sure that it's not right before you decide to move on to something else. Like for me, for example, I recently exited my social media marketing agency. That was a really hard decision. And it took me about 2.5 to 3 years to actually fully execute that all the way through. And all along the way, I was checking to make sure that I wasn't suffering from, crisis of meaning and crashing and burning, that it was actually the decisions were coming from a place of informed optimism. And that's where they were coming from. So, there are times when it's time to stop something, when it's time to sell, when it's time to get out. But I think if you're stopping something to move on to something else, and you notice a trend in yourself, because I used to do that a lot too, where I would go from one thing to another, to another, to another. And now I'm in this place where I just have to stick with something. And this graph right here has really helped me see that, this transition curve. And so now I'm trying to always operate from this place of informed optimism. So that's one framework to think about when you are going through a change, when you're trying something new, when you are trying to decide if something isn't working. Make sure that it's actually not going to work before you decide to move on to something else, because a lot of the times we get stuck in the cycle and we never really get to informed optimism. So this is not original to me. This is I saw on Tim Ferriss's website, and Alex Hormozi, and whatever Back Pocket COO is probably comes from there. But just keep this in mind as a business owner if you're going from one thing to the next. So I wanted to share that with you, because that's one framework that has really helped me over the past few years, to really understand that, like, it's normal for us to hit that crisis and feel like we need to change. But if we just keep going a little bit longer, we usually get into informed optimism. So, hi, Amna. I see you on there on LinkedIn. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the comments too. And yeah, if you all have any questions about anything, comment and I'll answer them. You might have to give a StreamYard, which is the platform I'm using, some permissions, but happy to answer any questions you have here. So the question is, okay, like, you've got this framework to understand why you're doing something and what's going on. You go again from uninformed optimism to informed pessimism, to that crisis of meaning and crashing and burning, to hopefully going through that and getting on the upward swing of a change into informed optimism, is what we really want to get to. So the next question is, okay, well, once we're in informed optimism, how do we keep going? And so the other thing that I've noticed in myself as a business owner is we always have the shiny object syndrome. Like, there's always something new, and it might not even be a new product or new service. It might be something new that can help your business be better. And this year, more than ever, I have really been leaning into make things simple, niche it down, narrow it down, to the point where right now I really have like two things that I'm offering, and one way that I'm really getting people into the funnel to offer that to them. So I'm selling like three things. I have my book coming out. I've got fuel sessions, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then I have these things called rapid roundtables, which that is, those are free events. If you're on my email list, you can, come on in. Hey, Michael, good to see you. Thanks for being on here. I'm working it out, man. I'm going for it. But anyways, it's really, you bounce from one thing to another to another. And this year I've really challenged myself to pick a lane and stay in it. And I have to tell you, and this is just an example. I did a rapid roundtable, which is my free event. And the first one I had like 3 people show up to. And the second one I had 4 people show up to. And I got to a point where I mean, after just 2 tries, I was thinking, oh, this is busted. This is broken. And then I did one yesterday and 8 people showed up to it. That's double. 20 people registered and 8 people showed up out of that 20. That's almost That's 40%. It's pretty good for a free virtual event attendance. So even in that short period of time, I felt that like pull to decide this isn't working. That pull to say, it's not going to work. I need to find something new. I need to do something new. But I know that that chart that I just showed a little bit ago has really changed how I approach business ownership and the things that I'm doing within business. So once you kind of get through that and you find your thing, what really helps is having two things have helped me more than anything else in business. One is a framework or a system to work through. And the other thing is a support community, whether that is virtual, in person. Some people do, some business owners here in America do BNI. Some people do mastermind. Some people do EO. There's all kinds of stuff. There's my thing, which is Fuel Sessions, which is a 4-week program that you go through to work on, to basically take your idea from your initiative from idea to action. So I'm getting ready to finish up cohort 2 or cohort 1 this week. And the things that the people have done in that room, one person has been trying to get something accomplished for about a year and a half. And in 4.5 weeks, when we meet tomorrow, she's going to be able to hit launch on it, which is just, I mean, just think about that. Like something you've been working on for a year and a half or thinking about doing. And in 4 weeks, because of a framework and because of a support community to help work through it, they're going to be able to get that thing launched and hit go on it. And that's just, to me, I mean, I do that like that's kind of my default. I'm one person who is like action, action, action. Sometimes to a fault. Sometimes I'm acting on too many things, which has been part of me reining myself in. But it's really important, I think, to have a support community and have a framework. So let me show you the Fuel framework slide here. Share my screen. Sorry, I'm getting used to using StreamYard. So this is the Fuel framework, and basically it's in 4 weeks. If you do the Fuel session, so you can take this framework and work through it on your own. I talk about it at Rapid Roundtables. I'll have the next Rapid Roundtable, which is a free event for those on my email list, is January 10th, and we're going to talk about accountability in 2024 on that one. So I do usually, try to get people to understand this framework and that, but really it's straightforward. It's formulate the first week. The first step is to formulate. The next step is you upgrade, you refine that plan, you get clarity on that plan, you get feedback on that plan. The third step is you expedite, and expedite is really about streamlining and focusing on the minimum that you need to do to get from where you are now to the other side of that bridge. When we go through it in Fuel sessions, I usually, at that point, we usually have 2 weeks left. And so I like to narrow it down to 2 to 3 steps so that by the time we meet the following week, which is the launch week, that the people in the group are actually launching something. So one person, like I mentioned, is launching an initiative that they've been working on for like a year and a half. Tomorrow, we're going to get to launch this. Another person has acquired a company and needed to create a lot of processes for over 100 new team members. And she's been able to accomplish that in this Fuel session cohort. So the way that the cohort works is we meet once a week for 4 weeks, and each week is focused on one of these steps. And we basically have about 30 minutes of discussion and then about 60 minutes of co-working, heads down, get the stuff done time. And I really hold you accountable. So whatever you say in week 1 that you want to work on, I might let you tweak it a little bit in week 2. But by the time we're in week 3, we're working on that thing. I really want people to focus on doing the thing they said they would do to help them stay out of that crisis of meaning and that crash and burn phase and get them into, because I know where they're at. They're in that uninformed or that informed pessimism spot. So they're usually around week 2, they have a crisis of meaning and they want to crash and burn, but I don't let them. I will not let my clients crash and burn when they're going through fuel sessions, because I know that if I can get them to the next upward swing of informed optimism, they will go out, kick butt, do the thing. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but they'll at least know. They won't be thinking about it anymore. And usually what happens is they figure out ways to make it better. They figure out why certain parts aren't working. Certain things will work, certain things won't. That's the nature of change. That's the nature of launching something new. But this right here helps you actually get launched. So, is this a sales pitch? Not really. I do have a new, I'm going to stop my share here. I do have a new fuel cohort starting on the week of January 15th. So I've got 3 groups for cohort 2, and it's no more than 10 people in each group, and it's $297 for the whole 4 weeks. So once a week for 4 weeks, 90 minutes each meeting, 30-minute roundtable with a bunch of other business owners who are going through the same process. We're all working on different things. You might be launching a new product, a new service, a course, bringing on 100 new team members and needing processes for that, like big things like that. But if you are still the primary practitioner in your business, if you are, head of client services, or if you are really, the salesperson, or if you're the marketing person, like if you have one of those roles where you are still primarily functioning as the main person in that role, Fuel Sessions can help you. And I would love to have any of you in it. It's limited seating. So I have about 15 seats left. So if you're interested, just let me know. But anyways, if you have something you want to get started or improve or work on, and you would like some support in doing that, it'd be great for you. So yeah, Michael says entrepreneurship is so close to our identity that I feel like this fuel framework for just figuring yourself out too. Yeah, the crisis of meaning is so big for 90% of the workers out there. Yeah, the crisis of meaning thing. And I mean, you can look up, like if you Google informed pessimism, uninformed optimism, crisis of meaning, change cycle, it'll come up on, you can see that chart that I showed a little bit earlier. But yeah, it is so, I think anybody who's been a business owner for any amount of time goes through that time. And what I see so many business owners do is they start over. They're constantly starting over. They are constantly like, they have a good idea, they test it, maybe like a few people are interested, and then it's crickets, and they just decide within less than a month that it's not going to work for them, so they go into another thing. And I was that person for a very long time. Like I hadn't seen that chart. I saw that chart last year at some point, and I was like, oh my God, this is me. Like I'm just constantly restarting. And it's not necessarily that you're constantly restarting businesses or starting new businesses. You might be, what my thing was, I was always creating new services. I was always creating new, in my social media agency, I was constantly creating new services, and I didn't have any type of framework to go around it. So one thing that if you are saying, when a client comes to you, especially if you're in a service business, and if somebody comes to you or a prospect comes to you and says, how can you help me? And if you say, we custom quote everything, I think looking back, that was probably a red flag for me. Because, while marketing, a lot of, there was like never a formula where I could say, go out and quote this, here's this, here's this, here's this. Like if you want influencer marketing, it's cost this much. If you want this, it costs this much. And so I was just always at a point where it was like, well, our minimum is X dollars a month for 6 months. And what we do for that depends on what you need. And there is a place for customization, but reality behind the scenes, I sometimes one person would get charged $1,000 for something that I would charge somebody else, $750 for, or something like that. Like I did not have a framework for the services I've offered. So if you are a service provider, especially, and you say like everything's custom priced, I think I'm not saying you have to package everything, but like if you are building proposals from scratch every single time you sit down to quote somebody, that might be an indication that you are in that like crisis of meaning and, crashing and burning spot because you're starting over every single time. So even like inside your business and even further inside your business, you can kind of find that crisis of meaning. It's not always about starting a new business. It might be starting a new service or starting a new quotation process every single time you get a prospect, or hiring people to fix problems that never seem to get fixed. Like that's another thing I see people do is they go out and hire, a marketing agency to fix something, or they go out and hire, a consultant to fix something, and that didn't work. So then they go out and hire somebody else. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff when you are repeatedly, I think when you're repeatedly putting resources towards something, that's just an indication that you might be in that crash and burn phase. And you might just need a framework like the fuel framework to sit down and work through. So, I know this has been kind of rambly, but I felt like this right here, when I pulled this out of my pocket the other day, I hadn't seen it in 2 years in my winter coat. This I Can Manifest Anything with my Julie B Magic. We are magical. I think entrepreneurs are magical. I really do, because we build stuff out of nothing. Like it is crazy some of the stuff that I've seen in my 15 years people come up with, and just this most ingenious and innovative way. But my mission, like I know the other side of that is you're constantly questioning yourself, you're constantly starting from scratch. You have a hard time focusing on what is working, or what maybe even if it's not working, it might be working, but it might not be working as well as you thought it would. And so you feel like you have to start something new. I just really, really want to try to help rein you in a little bit. I don't want to squash that visionary tendency because that's just so amazing. But I want to help you focus on one thing that will make you feel great to get launched and that will help you move your business forward. And that's what the Fuel Framework is. Again, you can, like, if you want to come to a rapid roundtable, those are free events. I talk about the Fuel Framework in every single one of those events. It's on my website. You can take a look at it if you want to practice that through yourself. I have fuel sessions starting January 5th, that week of January 15th. I've got 3 groups, so you could pick which group you want to be in, basically. That's $297 for the whole program. So we are here to support you. I am here to support you through this, but just know that I will challenge you to stick to the thing that you want to work on. Because week 1, you tell me, I want to get this done. And then usually by week 2, you may be feeling kind of like, I don't know. You get that uncertainty. I'm there. I'm going to be there to help you through that, be there to remind you that this is normal, but also be there to say, just go a little bit further. You're going to get into this informed optimism part of change. And that's where you start to get that lift. That's where you start to feel like things are clicking. And tweaking and changing things to improve something that's working is different than like throwing something out totally, like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's what I want to help you prevent. So I'd love to have you. I hope this was helpful. I know it was a little bit all over the place, but I think it was some things that are really important for business owners to think about, especially this time of year as you're planning next year, as we're reflecting on the year. Just think about, do you really need to change something? Do you really need to start that new thing? Do you really need to scrap that new thing that you started that you think isn't working, but maybe you just need to give a little bit more time? Those are the types of things that I really, really want to encourage you to think about. Because if you're constantly starting over, you're not going to get traction. And the last thing I want is to see business owners go out of business because of it. So if I can be of any help in any way, let me know. Send me a message on any of the channels. You can email me. I'd love to see you in the next Rapid Roundtable as well. If you are not on my email list or you're not getting those invites, let me know and I will get that fixed. Those are free for my email subscribers. So just let me know and have a great day. Have a great holiday. I'm not going to do any more of these between now and the end of the year. So Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. I know Hanukkah was last week, but happy belated Hanukkah. Just all of the happies, all of the merries. Wishing you the best. And I will see you all in 2024. Thanks, everybody.